Hi viewers, here's a mindful man reading another chapter from Catastrophe called Welcome Back Snowy. Kate opened the door and she was wondering who was thundering on it. Then she was amazed and delighted when she saw Snowy sat there with mucky paws and all. Kate had feared that she had lost Snowy forever. Kate quickly scooped Snowy up into her arms and soon she was covered in inky black coal dust. But she wasn't angry. She was just delighted to have Snowy back. "Oh, where have you been, Snowy?" she said, and she kissed her head affectionately, and Snowy purred with delight. "Look, Mum, she's back," shouted Kate. "Oh my, she's filthy," her mum said. But they both roared with laughter. "It's time she had a hot bath," she said, and she went upstairs to run the bath. Kate wrapped Snowy in a thick towel, and she didn't want the walls and carpet to be covered with coal dust. A newly returned dad wouldn't be pleased, she thought. Snowy was soon covered in lovely frothy bubbles, and even though she wasn't super keen on getting wet, she couldn't wait to see her shiny white coat again. Snowy sneezed as the bubbles went up her nose, and Kate laughed. It was great having her back. Soon the bath was covered with black coal dust, and the water was as black as ink. When Kate let the water out of the bath, there was a dark black ring all around it. The bath had never looked so dirty, but Kate didn't mind. She was just so pleased to have Snowy back, and now she was back to her natural colour, dazzling white, Kate thought happily, as she dried Snowy with a fluffy towel. "You're a catastrophe, Snowy," she said, as she patted her dry. "I think Ben will be pleased to see you," she said to Snowy, who let out a meow of delight. Kate carried Snowy downstairs and she gave her some much needed milk and kitty cat. It didn't take long to finish it all off. She was famished. She hadn't eaten properly for days and she was as hungry as a cat could be. Mary came in and she was just as pleased as Kate to see Snowy, and she gave her a long stroke and tickled her tummy. It was something that Snowy loved. As Snowy kicked her legs with delight. "I think this calls for a celebration," said Mary. "A homecoming cake," she said, clapping her hands together. "Cool," said Kate. She loved cake, but she had no idea what Snowy would think, but Kate wasn't one to spoil a party. Chapter 27, Pet Shop. Kate spent all day excited about the party. It was hard for her to sit still as she was so excited. She decided to go into town with Snowy and buy the biggest cake that she could find. She wasn't altogether sure whether cats like eating cake. She phoned her auntie who had 5 cats and she told her not to buy chocolate cake at all costs. It was like poison to cats. Kate was relieved because that was first on her list. Not to worry, she thought. There are lots of kinds of cake. Mary phoned Tom on Kate's behalf and everything was set for a wonderful party. Everyone was so pleased to have Snowy back. She was a positive life force and such fun. Fun was the one thing which had been missing from the Smith household for a long time. Kate was so pleased to have Snowy back, but this time she was going to keep a watchful eye on her. She wasn't going to let Snowy out of her sight. Even though she was careful to keep an eye on Snowy, she knew that she could take appropriate action. "I think you need a nice new lead and collar with your name on it," she said to Snowy, who cocked her ear with interest. Unknown to her, Snowy could hear and understand every word that people said. Snowy purred in delight, but she wished that she could speak and tell Kate how grateful she was for all of her kindness, and to tell Kate how much she loved her. They entered the pet shop and immediately Snowy became nervous. There were so many strange animals which Kate had never seen before. There were prickly ones, small ones, big ones, scary-looking ones, sleepy-looking ones, all in one big place. Snowy knew about dogs and birds which she loved to catch and sometimes eat, but a lot of these creatures she had never heard of or seen before. They looked a bit frightening to Snowy, and she was pleased they were behind cages. Snowy suspected that many of them would love to eat her, given the chance. Kate noticed that Snowy was unusually quiet. She told her not to worry, and she told him the name of all the animals. The one that Snowy thought were probably friendly were the mice, the busy fish, and the gentle, bored-looking tortoises. Snowy loved watching them eat and move around, and they looked like they had never had a stressful day in their lives, unlike me, thought Snowy. The worst and the scariest thing that Snowy saw were the big snakes. The way they moved and the way they stuck out their sizzling tongues made her shiver inside with fear, and she couldn't wait to get away from them. Kate found a lovely dazzling silver collar and a flashy silver lead. These will look amazing, she thought happily. Snowy will be the coolest, most glamorous cat in the neighborhood, she thought. It didn't occur to her that Snowy looked like she was on her way to a glitzy disco. Snowy wasn't sure what to think. But if they saved her from getting lost or catnapped, she was grateful. On the way out of the shop, Snowy saw a cool-looking black cat, and she pressed her nose up to the cage. He's quite handsome, Snowy thought, before Kate tugged her away on a new silver sparkling lead. Hope you enjoyed it. Please sub me.